Hey Bulldogs, hola. I want to talk to you about Greek and Latin roots. We think they're really important. Let me tell you why. Did you know that many words in English and other languages are built from Greek and Latin roots? Roots are actually the base or the foundation of many of the words you use. If you know how to put different roots together, you can guess at the meaning of a new word. Derivatives are words that are built from or derived from roots. Again, if you know the meanings of several roots, you can make a really good educated guess at what a word means. Here at Bush, we think this is really important. In the 7th grade, if you were here, you studied roots number 1 to number 50. In the 8th grade, you're going to study roots 51 to 100. You'll probably be able to use your knowledge from last year to help you learn roots this year. So let's get started. All of us, your 8th grade reading ACL teachers, have a link on our teacher webpage. Let me show you mine. If I go over to Greek and Latin roots and click, I will find some really good resources. Here are some to show you. First one I want you to see, as I download it from right here, is the list of Greek and Latin roots you're going to learn this year. The ones printed in green are Greek, the ones in red are Latin, but you don't need to worry about knowing that. Here is the entire list, all the way from 51 to 100. You might want to print this, you might want to bookmark this. This is just a resource for you to use. Here's another resource for you to use. Every time we do roots, you will see a PowerPoint of 5 roots and derivatives for that week. This is the one you need to study first, roots 51 to 55. So let's click and look. Let's study them a little more closely. Root number 51, helios. It's Greek. It means sun. You need to memorize that. Here are 2 derivatives that you need to know. If you remember scopio from last year, it meant to look. Your first derivative is helioscope. A helioscope is a device or a telescope that enables us to look at the sun without hurting our eyes. If you were here last year, you remember that metron means measure. Anything with M-E-T-E-R at the end has something to do with measurement. A heliometer is an instrument that allows scientists to study the diameter of the sun. Here's one you don't need to remember, helium. Why do we put helium in balloons? Because they rise up toward the sun. Get it? Let's move on. Root number 52 is sol. That also means sun. Anytime you see this AR at the end of a word, that little suffix means relating to, pertaining to, having to do with something. So solar means pertaining to the sun. For example, think about solar batteries, solar energy, solar power. All of it comes from the sun. The next word is solstice. Let's talk about solstice. You and I and people all through history have had this giant hole where we want to know the answer to why. Why do things happen the way they do? Well, ancient people used to wonder that too, and they used to look to the sky. They would look to the sun or the moon or the stars. They noticed that some days were very long and some days were very short. They thought sometimes the sun was standing still, had stopped moving. And that's called the solstice. There are 2 a year. The solstice is the longest day of the year or the shortest day of the year. Actually, when the sun is furthest away from our equator. Solstice. Let's move on. Luna. Luna is Latin and it means moon. Again, lunar, AR, anything pertaining to the moon. Think of lunar eclipse, lunar module, lunar travel, pertaining to the moon. Let's look at lunatic. Remember what I said about ancient people looking to the sky? They used to think the moon, the phases of the moon, caused all kinds of things to happen. They thought sometimes full moons made people crazy, made behavior unpredictable. That's where we get the word lunatic, craziness, thought to be caused by the moon. Look at number 54. This is a Greek word, dia. Dia means through or across. Your first derivative is diagnosis. What's a diagnosis? It's somebody analyzing something through their expertise. For example, a doctor can give you a diagnosis for a pain that you might have. A mechanic can diagnose a problem with your car. A gardener can diagnose problems with your lawn. Any expert can use their knowledge to come to a conclusion and give you an answer. That's a diagnosis. Let's look at diagram. If you remember last year, you did graph, to write or to draw. Let's look at diagram. It's a drawing, and through this drawing, we get knowledge. You're used to seeing cross sections, other diagrams. Through those visuals, we get knowledge. Diagram. Let's move to the last one. Our last one also means across and through, but at this time it's Latin. Trans. Think about this. Transaction. A transaction is a trade or an exchange or an action that takes place between two people. Has your mom ever given you the look and you knew exactly what she meant without saying a word? Through her eyes, you were able to exchange information. Transaction. Look at transform. You probably ought to know this one already just from the movies that are out. To transform is to change over to a different form or a different shape. Pretty simple, huh? Yeah. Well, those are the roots you need to know this week. Let's talk about the quiz. Your teacher will tell you exactly where to go to find the quiz. It will begin on Monday, and the window for taking the quiz ends Sunday night at midnight. Pay close attention to these deadlines, guys. You don't want to be penalized 20% of your grade because you took the quiz late. You can have this PowerPoint open when you take the quiz. It might help you, but before you do that, let me remind you of something else. Do you remember we talked about Quizlet? You can go find the Quizlet flashcards for 51 to 55. You can practice them as flashcards, or you can play one of the games that allows you to play the game, or you can even make a mock test for yourself. Really, true, false, multiple choice, matching, and take the test as practice. There are lots and lots of resources for you to use. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. Take the quiz, guys. Do your best. See you next time.